Sairam everyone. Just to recollect what we were discussing last week, we were discussing one paragraph where Swami is saying the Atma does not kill, is never killed. It does not even prompt one to kill. He says Arjuna Atma will not kill. The Atma of Bhishma and Drona will not be killed, and the Atma of Krishna does not prompt. I think that was the discussion for the whole session, and I think we discussed in various ways. I think there was one question from Kalyani. I thought I would just touch upon that, and then we will continue with today's. Her question was because in the English translation, the sentence was, "These are just phases of cause, consequence, duality. The Atma cannot be the cause or consequence of any karma." That was the sentence, and she asked what was stated in the Telugu Vahini by Swami. So I had said I will come back with it. So I will just read it once and then we will continue on. If it's okay, read it and translate it to the best of my ability. Ivi kevalamu kartru karma preraka bhavalu మాత్రమేనియు ఆత్మయే కర్మకు కర్త కాదనియు ఏ కర్మకు విషయము కూడా కాదనియు నిర్వికారమైన ఆత్మ చావదనియు చంపదనియు ఈ క్రింది విధముగా కృష్ణ పరమాత్మ బోధించెను. This is the statements. I will go word by word or at least phrase by phrase. What Swami saying is, ivi, that is somebody dying, somebody killing, all that, ivi kevalamu kartru karma preraka bhavalu matrame aniyu. That means these are merely, kartru means the doer and karma is action. Preraka means the agency of the person who is doing and the action, and bhavalu matrame, they are the perceptions of the doer and the actions agency alone. Okay. Atmaye karmaku karta kadaniyam. Atma is definitely not the doer of the karma. Ye karmaku vishyamu kuda kadaniyam. It is not the substance of any action. So that means it will not be the object of any action. For example, in this case, the object of the action of killing, Atma is not the object. It is not, and it's completely unaffected. Karmaku vishyamu kuda kadaniyu nirvikaramaina Atma chavadaniyu. This Atma which does not change, does not die, chavadaniyu, champadaniyu, does not kill. ఈ క్రింది విధముగా కృష్ణ పరమాత్మ బోధించెను. In the following manner, Krishna Paramatma is explaining. This is what the last sentence says. So Swami is referring to the paragraph which is coming and saying that Krishna explained, Lord Krishna explained how this nirvikara, the incapability of change of the Atma is being described. So this is what it is. So I don't know, for some reason cause and consequence is the translation. It basically tells action and the result of that action, and the doer are the only entities involved in this but not the Atman. This is what Swami says. I hope, Kalyani, you're okay with it. If you have any other questions, otherwise we'll continue from where we left off. I hope it's okay.
Yes, thank you very much. So, so the action, the result of the action, and the doer, as in like our body-mind complex.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sairam.
The Atmajnani is not bound by the results of karma. It is only those who indulge in karma without the awareness of the Atma, their real self, unaffected by what they do or feel or think, that do get bound. Like the person who has learnt swimming, the jnani can safely wade into the sea of worldly activity. If you do not know swimming, but yet enter the sea, the waters will swallow you up and death is sure. This explains why Krishna taught Arjuna the key science of Atma Jnana. The Atma does not kill, nor does it die. Those who believe that it kills or dies are unaware of its nature. The Atma of Arjuna does not kill. The Atma of Bhishma or Drona does not die. The Atma of Krishna does not prompt. These are just phases of the cause-consequence duality. The Atma can be the Atma cannot be the cause or consequence of any karma. It is nirvikara, incapable of change.
Okay, thank you, Kalyani. I don't know whether anyone else has something to comment or from the last conversation. If not, we can proceed. Okay, Kalyani. Yeah.
There are 6. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sairam, I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know. My question is, the Atma is not causing the doing anything. It's not born. It doesn't die. But when Atma leaves one body and goes to another body, the chitta carries along with the subtle body and enters into the new body. So I'm asking why in that case all karmas, whatever we have been doing using our body, has to go along with Atma. Sorry if my question is not clear.
So I think your question is, the Chittam and Ahankara principles travel with the Atman into the new body. I think that's your question, and so you're asking, why is it going along with the Atman? Is the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So I very good question, Auntie. And so if it is not attached, why is it going? I think that's the question you asked.
Yes.
Does anyone has something to say, please, to this question? So Swami is saying, Krishna is saying both, that the Atma does not kill. So why is the action itself, the results or the residue of that action in the form of Chittam, go along with the Atman into the next body, the new body? I think that's the question which Auntie is asking. So I will ask others to comment, please.
So, Sairam, brother. So my understanding is, as a rule, because of the karma only we came to this world, we get in this body. But everyone knows we are divine sparkle. Until we merge to the divine sparkle, wherever we let the spiritual path and the karma has to go with the Atma until you merge with the God. That is my understanding. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, Sairam.
Sairam, my understanding, the Atma, Sakwanti's question, why the karma is inbuilt attached when it moves from one birth to another birth. Maybe one of the sessions we discussed about this one, it wouldn't go, for example, as a tree, but it would go as a seed. It's a frozen state or something. It would go along with Atma. At the time, it wouldn't do anything. But when we do the action in the next birth, it would reflect or something. That kind of understanding I got it. How the karma travels with the Atma. As long as it is with the Atma, it would be in the frozen state. But when we do the action in the next birth, then the seed started to grow, and then all kind of consequences, it would pop up from that seed. That's what I understand from our past discussion. Is it my understanding correct, or otherwise? That's an excellent question. Sakwanti asked how this the Atma, how the karma is traveled without the Atma. Somehow it should be in the frozen state, or very the active less, the state, it should be there. Otherwise, how suddenly it would pop up when we take the birth in the next birth, and all kind of consequences coming from there. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, I don't know.
Yes, Auntie.
I know that whatever we carry with the soul, whatever it comes as vasana. But I am wondering if soul doesn't have any kind of, it doesn't do karma, it doesn't be born, and it doesn't kill, then why it is attached to the soul like this? So it goes on and on and on, right?
Yes, yes, Auntie, yes. So your question is, if Atma is not the culprit, why is everything going along with it?
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Anyone, I don't know, anyone else has something to say? I think the answer should become more clear, Auntie, if we read the next paragraph which is shown. But maybe I'll just comment. The thing is, just the way when we are in the body is affected. Atma is dwelling in the body, and then so many things happen to the body also. Okay, and when Krishna says it's not affected, the Atma is not affected, but the mind thinks it is affected. So it is the same thing whether when we are alive also, because that is part of creation itself. But the thing, that's my understanding, and the only reason the vasanas or the smell goes along is because the vasanas are not cleansed. So even though it is not part of the Atman, the Atma is tainted by certain vasanas. So the thing is, for example, if there's dirt in our body, or is there some smell in the body, that is because there are some 1 or 2 particles are in the body. So they create smell. Because if you read the next, I think why don't we defer it till we go through the next 2 paragraphs and then discuss, and if it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I think Sister Kalyani, you could read if it's okay.
There are 6 forms of modulation or modification: originating, existing, growing, altering, declining, getting destroyed. These are the Vikarras. Originating, or Janma, is when it was not and later is. When it is and becomes is not, it is called Maranam or death. Janma happens to organic beings, not inorganic things. But the Atma has no organs. It is nir-avayava. The Atma is not born, and so how can it die? Whom does it kill? It is unborn, eternal. Just as a person discards old clothes and wears new ones, the Dehi, dweller in the body, discards one body and dons another. The body is to the individual what the clothes are to the body. If you understand the real nature of the Atma, then you would not give way to grief. All the weapons that you yield can harm, but the material body. They cannot harm the modificationless Atma. Know this as truth and renounce this despondency.
Thank you very much, Kalyani. So Swami, Swami had used the word nirvikara. So that is Atma does not undergo any change. So Swami is explaining what are the types of vikaras, the 6 types of vikaras which every created being goes through in the first paragraph, and then Swami equates it to how the Dehi, the indweller in the body, changes body just the way we change clothes, old clothes, torn clothes. So that's what Swami is saying. I will pause here and ask anyone if they would like to comment on what we have just read.
Uncle, can you also tell the meaning of the word nir-avayava?
Okay. So the avayava means limb or an organ. Okay, it means, I think that's even the word organic and inorganic is actually a translation of savayava, that is sa avayava, and nir avayava. Okay, so sa avayava, that means with limbs or with organs, is being translated as organic. Okay. Inorganic means one who does not have any limbs or organs, or means any form of body or functioning part. Okay, so Atma is called Niravayava. But when we have body, each limb is called Avayava, or any instrument, or or organ or instrument which we have is called Avayava. So that's what Swami is telling. And maybe I don't know with I will just read out the 6 Vicaras in Telugu. I think because everyone knows some Indian language here, so you may understand. The first one is puttuta, that is to be born. Unduta means to live. Okay. Peruguta means to grow. Parinamamu chenduta, that means going through transformation. Kshininchuta means to decay. Nasinchuta means to die. So those are the 6 vicaras, 6 changes which our bodies and anything which is anatman undergoes. It is born, it remains, it grows, it changes, transforms, it slowly decays, and then it dies. So that is 6 vicaras. So I thought I would just mention that. Anyone? Yes, Brother Dasan.
So that means if you want to put it in a nutshell, if whatever you are looking in the Prakriti, it's all made out with 5 elements. But Atma is above that one. So anything made out with 5 elements is subject to decay or it has to, we can expect the changes. So Atma is not like that. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother, thank you.
Sairam, uncle. In the sentence where it says, when it is, oh, sorry, when it, so originating or janma is when it was not and later is. And then later it says janma happens to organic beings or sa avayava. So does that only refer to like what we think of as organic would be like, you know, cells, organisms, plants and humans and animals? Or like, for example, even a rock, those things at one point it was not and then it was. So do those things also have janma?
Yes, because you could say so. That's what Brother Dasan was telling. That's my understanding. I will ask others to comment also. Yes, that's my understanding. Means it was existing, it went, it has disappeared. So even inorganic things in this world, like stones and things like that, also go through this type of change. I think that's why the transfer organic, inorganic, not necessarily is very accurate, I would say, because the way we understand it may be different.
So if you, would you consider like rock as something that has avayava? Like if you look at it from
It
that?
has a form.
Oh, okay.
You see, so if I look at the exact translation of the word aveva, it's which has a component, subdivision, member, limb, part,
Okay.
all of that. So aveva means any which has a part also is aveva.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not necessarily anything to do with an organ. It's a limb in the case of a living being, nir aveva. Okay.
So is Atma the only thing that is nir avayava?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it doesn't have an appendage. If you want to put it that way.
Ram, I have a question about the very first sentence in the first paragraph. Swami explained there are 6 forms of modulation or modification. Each and every one in when they come into the world as a human being, they have to undergo these 6 modifications. But how one has maybe the length of the life cycle, why is it different from person to person? We know some of the jnanis, they have lived for 1,000 years, so they not even, we don't know how many years they have lived. Some people only 10 years, some 50, some 100, some 110. So the even one person has to go through all these 6 levels in these in the 6 stages in the life cycle. Why why each has to undergo maybe the different length of the life cycle? Is there any reason why they are having such sort of short lifespan or long lifespan, or what determines that sort of the lifespan in a one life cycle?
Okay, sister, thank you for the question. I will open it up for anyone to comment. Share your thoughts, please. I know Sai Satish, you have also joined. You can also, if you have something, you can share. There's another alumni brother has joined the study circle, so I will.
So, Sairam brother, the lifespan, we are not, according to the karma, the lifespan may be 5 years or maybe 5 days or 1 day or 100 years or 200 years. That is according to the karma. So that is my understanding, nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother.
Sairamana.
Yes, Sairam Sai Sadish.
A couple of thoughts in addition to the question raised. I have a couple of thoughts that are floating in my mind. I'll just share that.
Yes.
One is with regard to permanent and impermanent. And that is at the level of, in this world, anything that has name and form, we call it as something that we can relate to or what is real. But in absolute sense, what is reality is that which does not have name and does not have form. Though we relate to reality in the materialistic world as name and form, the one does not have the name, that does not have the form, that is not bound by space, that is not bound by time, that is what is the absolute reality. So the earlier question that had come up with how karma goes with the Atman kind of a thing, it is whether karma goes or not, it is at what stage I identify myself with. I being what is a different thing itself. We know that whole the peeling of the onion, if I have to say, the core being the layers and layers coming. So if I have to travel from bottom up, I go from Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and then to Anandamaya Kosha. So I go from the food sheet to the pranic sheet, to the mind, to the intellect, and then to the Atman. So if I stand at the level of the Atman, then there is only one. There is nothing else. If I step from the level of the Atman and come one rung lower at the level of the intellect, then already there is two. That is, the Atman is there and the intellect has now been born. And now one intellect comes, then everything comes, because there is no longer one. That one has become two. And when one becomes two, automatically karma, everything, that whole baggage comes into existence. So if only the Atma exists, because if I say I, and beyond I, if I say anything else, it becomes two. That's why it's like I am I kind of a thing. So only I exists. So if I am at the realm of the Atman, then I don't speak anything else, because nothing else exists. Atman, that's it. If I step one rung lower, one step I take away from that, and it becomes two, everything else starts spinning in, whether it is karma, because the once intellect, then automatically the mind also follows. Mind comes, then you have prana, then you have the body, annamaya, all that whole. So at what level I establish myself and always stay, that defines the existence, whether karma exists or not. If I'm at the level of the Atman, there is no karma. If I come one step down, everything else comes. So that was what I had in mind for the earlier question that Auntie had. So coming to this part of the lifespan, they usually say it's related to the number of like breath kind of a thing, like how many times we breathe. So sometimes they say the people who, uh, in general, if we take a deep breath, is related for several things. One is from the point of slowing down the thought, slowing down activity. So any times when we go into breathing slowly, the whole of relaxation at the body level, the mental level, and all that slows down. So in general, uh, the number of whatever is our lifespan in general, if you see, they say that it is related to the number of breaths we take. That's why something like a sparrow lives very short, or something like certain other mammals which have longer uh, their breathing activity, that they live longer. This is at a very uh, gross level of understanding. But when we talk about sages who have lived for thousands of years, they have certain things called kaya kalpa. They use this thing for rejuvenating their body and things of that kind. For them, the body is nothing but a dress. So they clean their dress nicely, they wash it and use it well. So the Atman decides to stay in that for a longer time. They really are at the level of the Atman and use the body as a dress and function it at it and function with it in such a fashion that it is treated nothing but an instrument as a dress. And so they can extend their lifespan to a longer level. So as much as it is bound by karma, it is at what level of maturity or what stage do I stand and look at things that decides how things unfold. I don't know if I made sense here, but just I wanted to place these rambling thoughts out there, because when we speak about something that is beyond the mind, using the mind and the senses, it gets limited with our understanding. So I'm just presenting some of the things that just came up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Satish.
Hi, Ram.
Zaira.
I do have that's a very good explanation. Thank you. But I do have a follow-up question to Chakwanti's question, where I understand that you would not accumulate accumulate karma if you realize you are Atma. In a sense, you kind of detach from your actions, then you're at the level of Atma, then there's no karma. Whatever actions you do, you're not accumulating that, right? But I think the question, or my question is, something similar to Auntie asked, that when this Atma disrobes this body and goes into the next body, or takes on a next form, how is the karma being traveled, or going along with it, if it is detached, I guess? Maybe I didn't quite understand that point.
Okay, thank you, sister. Sister Ananthi, you had something to say or ask, I guess.
Because of my question about how some jnanis and some people, they live 1,000 years and 1,500 years. They maybe brothers Sai Satish, he nicely explained that because they either clean their body maybe every year. They periodically they clean nicely and they put the new clothes in them, but that's why they, whatever the number of years they want to live, they live according to their will or wish. But we don't know how to clean our body, not the physical body, my understanding, maybe the meditation, the puya meditation, or the very soulful meditation, it helps all those people to rejuvenate, or to cleanse their body and give them the number of years. But as an ordinary human being, we don't know how to cleanse our body through the meditation. Even we try to meditate, maybe our meditation may not be that effective. That's why we need the new cloth given by the God, in our next birth. We don't know how to clean our the body ourselves. Otherwise, it would be we all would have had 15, 16 new clothes in every birth. Maybe God also wanted to limit that capacity for only a very few people. Otherwise, all of us would be living in this the earth for unlimited period. That's a really nice explanation. Thank you, brother Sai Satish.
Thank you very much, sister. But Dasan, you have something to say?
Yeah, on this question, in my understanding, even in Tamil, we say the mummalangal, anabam, kanmam, maya. So that means ego, karma, maya. So the Atma is covered with these three things. In order to get the liberation, you have to come out with the ego, karma, and maya. If your body, if you passed away, so that as a rule, whatever the karma and whatever the spiritual past, spiritual, whatever you did it has to travel with the Atma until you get liberation. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you very much, brother. Anyone else has something to say, share? So maybe I will, I think Brother Sai Satish has nicely explained. So I think I will first address just Auntie Saku's question and I think Sister Narmada's question. Based on whatever Sai Satish has shared, the reality is what we normally call death is the death of the sthula sharir or the gross body. And the mind body's timeline is a little longer. Okay, so that is what happens. And all the taints which Brother Dasan mentioned, like the ego, or your karma, or the maya, all that reside in the sukshma sharira or the mental sheath. Until the mental sheath is cleansed and discarded, that mental sheath is going to go along with the Atman when the body drops. So most of the sadhana is actually aimed at the mental level, but until the vasanas remain in the mental sheath. And that the time duration for that is actually longer. And the mental sheath is the one which goes as a seed, as I think Sister Anandi mentioned. It is a seed which sprouts again, because that is what has the ability to sprout. So when we discard the body, even though the Atman is not affected, the mind which is contains the vasanas goes along with the Atman into the new body. Swami at some places has given this example. You will say you wear a coat, then you wear a shirt. You know, the person first wears some undershirt, then he will wear a shirt, then he will wear a coat. Like that, there are different layers. So the thing is, even if you take out the external layer, the inner layer, when that has some vasanas, it smells bad. Even if you wear another coat, that smell will come through the new coat. Okay, so the mind goes along because that's the time duration or the lifespan of the mind is longer. It is not completely dead or not given up when the body drops off. So that's my understanding. And to Sister Anandi's question, I think brother has already explained, Sai Satish. You know, there are people who buy a car and they can drive the car for, it will run 400,000 kilometers, 500,000 kilometers because they are good mechanics. They know how to tend to their car. But all those who don't know how to, we had to take it to a mechanic. And, after 100,000, it's the vehicle has to be sent to the scrapyard. And especially if there are too many accidents and so on. So the rishis, yes, they were like mechanics. They can look after the body extremely well. That's I think Osis Andy has already acknowledged that we don't know how to do it, so we need new dresses. So I think those are also factors. I hope those are my thoughts. I don't know whether the questions were answered appropriately, but if anyone else has something to share,
Thank
please.
you very much. This is Saku Auntie. Thanks
Saira.
all of you.
Saira.
Saira.
So I think Swami has basically explained what we discussed earlier here also. So if everyone is okay, maybe we can move on to the next slide.
The foremost duty of a Kshatriya is to stay on the side of Dharma and destroy adharma. Consider your good fortune. You have on this battlefield worthy foemen like Bhishma and others. This same Bhishma fought in the past with his own guru, the Brahmin who taught him all the arts, the great Parashurama himself, in order primarily to carry out his Kshatriya duty. And now you, like a coward, are afraid to take arms against such stalwarts. A Kshatriya finds his duty fulfilled when he upholds the cause of Dharma, in spite of all odds. That is the path of progress. Shatam means dukkam, sorrow, and a Kshatriya is he who saves beings from sorrow. A chance like this to wage a war on behalf of Dharma against the forces of adharma comes but rarely to man. You have been blessed as a Kshatriya to take part in this Dharma Yuddha. Just imagine how much merit you will acquire by the service to the world, which you are set to do now. The war that is waged to establish Shanti and Saukya, peace and plenty in the world is referred to as Dharma Yuddha. And this is just such a struggle where justice is bound to win.
Thank you very much, Kalyani. So Swami is giving some, explaining to us the additional arguments, reasons which Krishna gave Arjuna to convince him that he should do his duty as a Kshatriya on the battlefield. So there's nothing much for me to comment here. I will open it up for a discussion. If anyone has something to share, please, on what we just read.
Sairam, this Saukya means it's health, or Shanti and Saukya is peace and health, or peace and plenty.
Prosperousness.
So, yes, Auntie, somebody had said something?
Saukya means it's a prosperous life. All health, wealth, everything.
Oh, okay. So in the second paragraph, there is the war that is waged to establish Shanti and Saukya. And I thought Saukya means health, but Auntie said it's prosperous.
Anyone else would like to comment, please?
I don't know if this might be a digression, but would someone be able to say the story of what happened when Bhishma, or why did he fight his guru?
Good question. Anyone would like to share the story of when did Bhishma fight with Parashurama? So if no one has volunteers, then I will say the. See, so the story is a bit long one. So Bhishma was the student of Parashurama. What had happened was Bhishma wanted to find brides for his stepbrothers. Okay, his Shantanu Maharaja had married Bhishma's mother, Satyavati, and they were two children. And for them, he wanted to find brides. So he went to a king, and he had three daughters, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, and he brought them as brides for his stepbrothers. But one of them told Bhishma that she already had set her mind on somebody else, Amba, the older one. So he let her go. And then what happened was when Amba went to whoever she wanted to marry, that person rejected, saying, you were kidnapped by someone, so I'm not going to marry you. So she was quite disappointed. And she was upset with Bhishma that, because of him that her life was ruined. So she came back to Bhishma and said, you marry me now. But Bhishma had given a vow to Satyavati that he will not marry anyone. So he cites that as a reason and tells Amba that, I cannot marry you. So Amba was really upset. So she thought she was figuring out, how can I get back at Bhishma? So she thought, somebody who can beat him in the battle should be found. So she goes to Parashurama, who was the guru, and asks him, you need to, get me justice. I am now, failed party, and I'm on the streets. You need to do something. And so because of that, Parashurama, who was not very keen, but he said, okay, because she came asking for help, he said, okay, I will fight. So he went and waged war with Bhishma, and so that's when Bhishma fought with him. And the guru could not win over. So that's the story. As I understand, as I know, but if anyone has something else. So the thing is, it was his dharma to fight, So Bhishma, even when the guru came to fight, he said as Kshatriya he has to fight. So that was the story.
Okay, that's interesting. So, because Parashurama was an avatar too, right? So is Krishna and Swami saying that, was he fighting on the side of adharma in this case, or is he just saying that Bhishma just did his duty, and not that Bhishma was fighting a dharmic war?
Yeah. So in that case, he had given a word, and he was not. He cannot marry, and he will not marry. But if somebody comes and fights with him, he will fight, and that's the way they squared their differences, I guess, in the Kshatriya clan. So that was that's if as Kshatriya, if somebody comes to fight, you fight. That is your job. If you're in the armed forces, and if your job is to protect the country or whatever, or even self-defense. So it was a dharma that he had to maintain. So I think Bhishma was ready to go to the battle, and if he had to die in the battle, he was willing to die because his guru was capable of killing him. But he was not afraid. He thought, I will die in the battlefield, and that way, everything will be sorted out. So I think that was my understanding, Kalyani, but I would like to do more research on this if Swami has spoken about it elsewhere.
Thank you. And so did Parashurama die? Then did Bhishma kill him there, or?
No.
No, okay.
He was defeated, so I think you accept defeat at some point. It's. I don't think Parashurama killed him.
Okay.
Parashurama.
Brother, I know this is not a good question, but I just wanted to find out a little bit of clarification because of the story come up. Because he has given the word, he stood for Dharma and he fought. But in the other side, Dhritarashtra, he will say he will safeguard his his ruling kingdom. Then he didn't say that. He didn't say at that time anything, right? So he didn't fight for it. Then at that time he didn't fight for it. So where one side he fought for it, for his dharma, the other side, because he has given a word to Dhritarashtra when the Draupadi was distraught, he didn't say anything because he said that he was holding his words at that point. So something is not connecting. Trying to understand where he has given word, he's going for one, and for one side, he didn't go.
So just to clarify, sister, the reason why Bhishma, even though he realized that what Duryodhana and the Kauravas were doing was not correct, he did not insist on even though he spoke about it. I think there were two reasons he himself had mentioned later on in Swami describes. The problem for him came about because he was living with the Kauravas and he ate the food which they gave. Okay. So even for a great person like Bhishma, in the wrong company, he will not be at his, he also slipped. Swami always says company is very, very good, important. And that is one reason. But even though he was a bit confused about the Dharma, that was one reason. But why was he confused was he had given a word to Satyavati, his stepmother, that he, at all costs, he will protect whoever is on the throne from her lineage. So the way he looked at was Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra were the kings who were on the throne. And he had given a word that come what may, I will lay down my life to protect them. So that was a word. So he was a bit, he was conflicted in his own mind what to do. So because he gave a word, he was sure even when he came to the war, he knew that the Kauravas were wrong. And he was willing to die doing what he had to do. So
but he knows that he didn't stand for the Dharma at the time.
He didn't stand for certain things which were right. So I think there was a bit of a confusion.
Yes. In this case, he did for the Dharma, and the other one, he just failed a little
That's
bit.
my understanding. I don't think this is correct.
Yeah.
This my others can also share their thoughts, please. I will open it up for discussion.
So,
Brother Dasan, go ahead.
Sairam brother, is that he gave the promise to Satyavati or his father, Sadanand, or what's the name?
Shantanu.
So Santanu. He gave the promise to Santanu, yeah, that I'm not going to get married. Then he's the one gave the demand that if you're going to marry my daughter, you should not, because you're going to have kids after that, they're going to take over the kingdom. So that's the time he gave the promise to his Satyavati's father, yeah?
Yeah, so both it's whatever Satyavati wanted, just what the father asked, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but she was the one who decided later on. So it's a word apparently he had given, Satyavati and her father. You can
because Bhishma's father found Satyavati first, and he wants to get married, and Satyavati told, okay, go and come and ask my father. And father demand this one. And at the reason he didn't fight at this stroke time, he's like looking at, he's like other people watching the scene. Nobody is called Bhishma to fight. Here, the guru asks for the fight, then he has to fight. This is my understanding also, brother.
Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you. Any other thought from anyone else?
No, I'll just add to what you had said and to what Swami had mentioned in the same line. So this question, when I was just seeing, actually Swami tells this story at the end of the battle, and he's on the arrow, he's lying down there, and Krishna takes all the Pandavas along with Draupadi. Then he asks Bhishma to advise Yudhishthira, and Bhishma, he's on the bed of arrows waiting for the Uttarayanam time comes so he can let go of his mortal coil. And Bhishma starts advising Yudhishthira as to how he should run the kingdom. And at that point, as Bhishma is advising, Draupadi laughs. And seeing that, actually, it is not a good sign. The queen like Draupadi laughing or smiling when somebody as a statesman like Bhishma is making or advising Yudhishthira. So everybody is a little taken aback. But then Bhishma tells her, no, you go ahead. You tell me the reason why you are smiling. And this is what she says. The person whom you have to advise, that is Duryodhana, nothing of that advice was given. And my husband, who follows letter and spirit, to him you are giving advice at this point, and that is why I'm surprised by this, and so I smile. And that is when Bhishma replies the same thing. He says, every food grain that I had in Hastinapur during the rule of Duryodhana went on to make, they say, Jaise Ann Vaise Man, how as is the food, so is the mind. So that went on to make every part of my being. And later on, when your husband Arjuna's arrows pierced me, all that bad or the thing that got accumulated went away. All the good feelings are once again back that are surfacing. And that is how I'm able to tell Yudhishthira at this point in time. So when we are looking at the earlier context, we had to fight his guru. That was again on the parlance of Dharma that he had to, Kshatriya Dharma that he had to stick to. And later on also, it was, he knew that many of the things that were happening was not in consonance with Dharma. But having been in that company, having gone about that whole thing for decades, it got ingrained. But later on, when Arjuna's arrows pierced him and all of that, literally what he says, the bad things went away. The earlier path of Dharma that he had always stuck with resurfaced, and then go on to tell Yudhishthira actually what is the true way to govern. So just wanted to add.
Thank you. Thanks, Ayush.
I also thought that nowadays in the political side also, Bhishma is the political advisor at that particular Kurukshetra war time to the Kauravas. So if he gives any advice or this support to the Pandavas, that would be a great conflict of interest and adharma too. Say for an example, if I am a political advisor to this country and support to the neighboring country for their well-being, that is a great sin. That's why up until the moment, the Bhishma give up everything in the death bat, then he is free from his duty. Maybe when I look at in the modern side, I thought that Bhishma has done right thing, according to his position at the time with Kauravas. Otherwise, he doesn't have any other best alternative at that time. Whatever he could do best at his position, he has done it. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. Does anyone else have something to say? If not, we can move to the next slide, I would say. I think there was a question on the word Saukhya. Saukhya actually is derivation from the word Sukha. So what comes out of Sukha is Saukhya. Everything that relates to Sukha is Saukhya. I thought I'll just mention that. And then we can move on.
Sorry, Uncle. And Sukha just means like well-being, or?
Yeah, you can say well-being. Saukhya is what comes when one is in a state of sukha, whatever comes along with that sukha is saukya.
Okay.
And in
It's
Tamil,
like just the way Kuru's progeny is Kaurava,
Mm.
you know. So in Sanskrit, so Sukha becomes Saukya, just the way Kuru becomes Kaurava.
Okay.
The children of Kuru are Kauravas. So the children of Sukha is Saukya. Means, you know, what comes out of it, you know, what is generated by Sukha is Saukya. So when you are healthy, you can do a lot of things. When you're happy, you can do a lot of things, and you accumulate everything. So in that sense, all happiness, all that cause gives you happiness, everything is Saukya. That's why, you know, people ask, you know, when you meet somebody, are you Saukyama? Is everything well with you? You know, so that's the question. Okay.
Thank you.
Saira.
The Kauravas have desisted from no sin, no injustice, and no vice. They insulted elders, deserted the virtuous, defamed the chaste, and wounded the self-respect of the good. Countless are their misdeeds. Now the moment for retribution has come. They are about to answer for all their crimes. Just at this hour, if you behave like a poltroon, you are bringing dishonor to your parents, your brothers, and indeed to the entire Kshatriya caste. You imagine that it is a sin to engage in war. That is a great error. The sin, on the other hand, lies in avoiding the chance to destroy the wicked, in prolonging the agony of the virtuous. Give up your dharma now, and you run the risk of falling into perdition. Hold fast to it, and you are untouched by sin. Be of fixed mind. Do not give way to either one or the other among all the dualities of the world. From the 31st shloka of this chapter, Krishna has spoken of this Swadharma Nishta in 8 shlokas.
Thank you very much, Kalyani. So Krishna is giving reasons why this war has been entered into and what Arjuna has to do, and that was what his duty is. Swami is again mentioning about the 8 shlokas. I think in the earlier also in the Geetha Vahini, Swami had talked about the Dharma Ashtaka, the 8 shlokas which described Dharma, Swadharma. So Swami is again pointing us to those 8 shlokas. So that's all I have to say. I will open it up for any comments, please, from anyone who would like to. So I think it's because maybe it's pretty straightforward, and you know, Swami is saying, so there may be no discussion required. If everyone feels so, then you can read the next slide. So I think Swami, yes.
Sorry, Uncle, if we can just clarify one point. I know that previously you had mentioned one of the shlokas where Krishna is saying, give up all dharmas. And I think like surrender to me or something like that. And here he is saying to hold fast to your dharma, do not give up your dharma. Can you just draw the connection? Like what is the message I guess we should derive from both of these statements?
Okay, good question, Kalyan. So I think what you are referring to is Swami himself has mentioned about Sarva Dharman Pratyajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Okay, so he's telling give up all, or that's the translation at least, give up all dharmas and take refuge in me and I will take care of everything. So that's a promise given by Krishna. And here your question is, so that is the message, and now this seems to be contradictory because he's telling you're a Kshatriya, so you have to do your duty. So how do we reconcile these two thoughts? Is your question? Should we follow the Dharma or should we give up Dharma? So that's the question. So I will open it. I hope I got the question right. So I will
Yes,
open it.
perfect.
I will open it up for discussion if anyone has something to say. So what do we do? Do we follow Dharma or we give up Dharma? Which advice of Krishna do we follow? So
Sairam.
yes, Saira.
Sairam, and I think it's a similar question I was going to ask, and then I thought of this too. Maybe my line of thinking, I don't know if it is correct or not. When you are following the Dharma and you surrender, in a sense, like as long as you don't take ownership of that action or Dharma you're doing, then you have actually given up your Dharma to God. So in that sense, you're not really taking ownership or taking the results or fruits of it, right? So I guess, and my other question, I think going back to my previous question, I think it kind of works out or makes sense that the Dharma and actions and all that is it's belongs kind of part of the body, and Atman is not part of it. So in that sense, it is connecting to the body. So you are not, if you kind of surrender, then you're not it's not affecting you. So if you think in that way, then yes, you're in this body. In this body, you do this work, but then you're not. In the same time, you have given up as well. I don't know if it made sense.
Very good, Narmada. Thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to share thoughts?
I also thought about when I look at give up your Dharma, maybe the Dharma can be categorized as my Dharma and maybe the universal Dharma. My Dharma, even for a thief, he would think that my Dharma is stealing the goods, but universal Dharma or something, that may not be aligned to each other. Swami said, give up your Dharma, so it depends on what is Dharma. Maybe the definition of Dharma plays a role here. Swami said, your Dharma, that sort of understanding, Sister Narmada has already explained that part too. So Swami saying that give up your Dharma and look at the universal perspective. What is good for the well-being of the universe? So you look at in that way and perform it. That sort of understanding, I got it here. And also the additional one, it may not be it's like a question. My question is, whenever only the Bhagavad Gita, when they quote it, always they referencing it. So it should be, it's kind of more authoritative. It's like a legislation according to paragraph such and such, or according to section this and this would be the effect or something. That's why whenever we only in the Bhagavad Gita, I thought that paragraph to paragraph, any speaker, about the Bhagavad Gita, they always refer to the, verse 8 or the sloka of 31st. Referencing is very, very important. What would be the reason why they are quoting these referencing? So because of the Bhagavad Gita is the maybe holy text and very authoritative Hindu philosophy, or maybe the universal Sanatana Dharma philosophy. That's why they quote all the time that referencing part. Or is there any other reason why the other Puranic stories or Hindu philosophies, very seldom I have seen the referencing of the Slokani, but here in the Geetha Vahini, every little paragraph, they're referencing it. So maybe after you clarify other points, maybe little explanation, if somebody knows that, why we refer to all the time the slokas, the number. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment on Sister Kalyani's question, to add to what Sister Almita has said?
Yes, Anna.
Yes, please.
So, very interesting question, because a few paragraphs earlier also, if you see, Swami had said about Atma being completely out of the whole action in terms of not being killed or participatory in any nature. All of that discussion happened. And at the same time, Swami had come back a few lines later and told Arjuna, if you do all this, you will get merits, right? So on one hand, Swami is saying nothing is real other than the Atman. And then Swami comes back and says, do this so that you will get more merits. And likewise, like what sister had raised, this whole point about looking at it, I'm just missing the trail of thought as once again, what was that exact point raised by Sister Kalyani? I'm just
no, see one point, Sarvadharman Parityajya.
Yeah.
Then here you hold
He's
fast to
prodding.
Dharma.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So the same thing. There you talk about Atma, then here you come to the merits, which is related to the body. Then on one part you say give up on actions, and others you prod to get into action. Right. So the whole thing it means we can look at it as one thing. When Swami gives a discourse, there's a huge audience sitting, and in that audience there are people at several levels or layers of maturity that they are in, and they will perceive the same message given by Swami at whatever level that they are in their life, in their spiritual journey. This is when we look at an audience as such. The second level is now Arjuna, he is standing on the battlefield, and the whole purpose of Krishna is to make Arjuna fight the battle. So I am also trying to look at it, is Krishna trying to meet Arjuna at different levels? He's meeting him at the level of the Atman. He's meeting him at the level of the mind. He's meeting him at the level of the body. He's trying to take at whatever level, because when you're going through that whole turmoil and that churning that is happening, there is several things that is happening at the body level, at the mind level, at the causal level of the Atman, so many things. So as I see it, depending on what, because it is as it is happening as a dialogue on the battlefield, depending on the stage that at that point in time Arjuna is standing at, Lord Krishna is meeting him at that point and prodding him into. It's a continuous evolving. That is one way to look at it. The second way that we can look at this whole picture is again the concept of what the other sister had mentioned about Swadharma and Paradharma. So when we are looking at Swadharma is at the fundamental level of the Atman, and that is it. That is the ultimate Dharma that one holds. The other is Paradharma, which is related to one's profession or one's role that one dons. In this case, Arjuna wearing the role of or the Atman wearing the role of Kshatriya in the case of Arjuna, and then the whole thing. So we can see at what point, based on what stance has to be taken for the battle at that point in time, if Krishna is addressing him, is he addressing at the level of Paradharma that he has to take up as a Kshatriya to fight the battle? Even as he advises him to look at the Swadharma as at the Atmic level, nothing being born, nothing being killed. So there are layers of meaning in that one sentence or one whatever Krishna says, and that layer of meaning is left to every Arjuna who reads Bhagavad Gita, even at this point in time, or like now the Vahini thing, whatever we are looking at, what we are getting from that same one statement made by Krishna, at what level are we gauging it also determines at what level we are traveling and whatever it is. So I would say it is multifaceted, or several layers of meaning can come from the same statement as we dwell more on it. But even at this point, it is at what stage is Arjuna standing at, even as Krishna tells him, is he at the level of the body? Then Krishna is answering him at the level of the body. Is he at the level of the mind? Then Krishna answers him at the level of the mind. Is he at the level of the spirit when he is overwhelmed with Krishna's omnipresence? Then that kind of a feeling is what I am getting. But I don't know, once again, if I put it forth in the way I am perceiving, but just wanted to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sai Satish. Thank you. Brother Thasan, you can go ahead.
Brother. Each 4 yugas, we have dharmas. So for the first from Kreta Yuga, you have to do the tabas. Treta Yuga, you have to do the sacrifice. Dwapara Yuga, you have to do the devotion. And Kali Yuga, you have to do the namasvarnam and service. So once you do your duty and according to the dharma, you will merge with the God. Here in the battlefield, Lord Krishna is saying, you are Jiva, you are looking at the Jiva point, and I am the Deva. So you surrender everything and do your duty, and you will achieve the goal. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to comment?
Brother, here my understanding is give up your dharma now means his understanding is incorrect on the battlefield. What is his dharma? He doesn't want to engage in the war, right? So that is not dharma for a sastriya. So that's the reason Krishna is pointing out that what you are now thinking is not dharma now. So that's my understanding is. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hi, and thank you, everyone. That really clarifies things for me. Can you just also explain Paradharma? What does that exactly refer to? And so Swadharma is like Atmic Dharma.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Swadharma is Atmic Dharma. Anything which is not Atmic Dharma is Paradharma, which is relates to the other.
Other.
So that's my understanding.
Brother, what did you say, brother? It's not anything to Atma Dharma. What is called?
Para means other.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Because the word para sometimes in many ways it's used, because para means that which is beyond also is, of the other world also is mentioned. But in this case, paradharma means that which doesn't relate to the Atman.
So interestingly, like these 8 shlokas are about Swadharma, but Krishna is advising them this way.
Sairam.
Yes.
This is Akku auntie.
Yes.
I think what I understood is first he's telling Arjuna, you have to do your Satriya Dharma. Then he's looking at the way Sai Satish said that he's looking into his Atma, and when Atma, all Atmas has to surrender everything to the divine if you have to merge with God. So maybe he is doing both, because all good and bad has to be nullified for you to merge with God. So is that why Krishna is saying you give up all your dharma to me and merge, be with me, listen to me? Is that why he's saying that?
Very good. Actually, very good discussion, actually. So maybe I will share my thoughts. Anyone else, if no one else has something to say? But different ways, many different discussions came out. So, Kalyani, I think I lost. I think what was the last question you asked? Did I?
Oh, just because here Krishna is saying that these are
Swadharma.
yes.
So I think very good. Actually, very good observation. So okay, I thought you had asked something else, so I will come to this. See, if you look at this sentence from the 31st sloka of this chapter, Krishna has spoken of this Swadharma Nishta in 8 slokas. Okay. So actually, I think first let me address what Sister Ananthi asked. Why is Swami mentioning the verses? So which means Swami is giving us homework. So we have to take up and we have to read those slokas. So, Swami sometimes points us in the direction so that we go and study for ourselves. I think that's why Swami, otherwise there's no reason for Swami to mention these verses, the number of verses which we have to read. So I think if we read the 8 slokas, we will understand that even though Krishna is telling the Arjuna to fight as Kshatriya, he does not want him to forget his Swadharma, which is identifying with the Atma. See, we just read the sentence just before that. Do not give way to either one or the other among all the dualities of the world. Okay, so what he says is Sukha Dukkhe Samikritva Papa Labha Labho Jaya Jaya. So that is, I think, the shloka number 38. Okay, in that he's saying, fight like a Kshatriya, but don't be affected by the duality. That is your Swadharma. That is your Atma Dharma. Identify with the Atman, that you are not affected. So the thing is, even when you are fighting as a Kshatriya, be firmly established in your Swadharma, which is not being swayed, not being affected by the dualities. So the reality is, Arjuna, after all these talks, Arjuna went to fight. Okay, but Krishna wanted to say, don't just fight like a Kshatriya, ignoring your Swadharma, which is being firmly established in your Atmic state. So you have to do what a Kshatriya has to do, because you are donned a Kshatriya body, as I think already Narmada has mentioned. As Kshatriya, the body which you have taken, the name and form you have taken, has a certain set of duties, which you have to do as a Kshatriya, because you are in a Kshatriya body. However, you should not forget that you are the Atman. Don't be swayed by the dualities of the world. So that means you should be firmly established in your Atmic state also, while performing the Kshatriya duty, which is ascribed to the body in which you are living today, because that relates to the world. But do not forget your real self. So it is again, if we go back to the verse which we discussed, Sarvadharman Parityajya. Parityajya is not Tyaja. Tyaja means to give up. Parityajya means there's a reason why you give up. It is not just throwing it away. Brother Dasan has nicely explained, surrender to the Lord. Whatever you do, all your dharma also is offered to the Lord. So that kind of giving up is different. That is basically offering or surrendering to the Lord. So that is what Krishna is asking. Do what you have to do as Kshatriya, but offer everything to me. That is Sarvadharma Pratya. Mamekam Sharanam Vaja. Just be established in me. That means you are not affected by the dualities of the world. That's why the Sthita Prajna Tattva also is discussed. So he wants Arjuna to do both. Don't forget that you are the Atma. Don't be affected by the dualities of the world, but do the duty as a Kshatriya. Because you have taken the body of a Kshatriya, and that's a role which you have to play in this world. Do not forget. So it is something similar to if you are acting in a drama, you are given certain lines. You have to say those lines and do those actions. But you don't forget that you are not the role which you are taken on. Both are equally important for a good actor to do. So don't forget who you are. Don't become the role. Know who you are and be firmly established in that. But perform your role based on the directions given for the role, and say do what has to be done on the stage. I think that's my understanding. Just putting it all together, listening to everyone. Sairam, brother Dasan, please go ahead.
So I have a question. So based on Pariprasanna, whatever you explained, so the Lord Krishna saying to Arjuna, fix your mind, and then we can avoid dualities. So in the real world, how we can fix our mind to avoid the dualities? Thank you, Sairam, brother.
You have answered the question, or is
No,
a
it's a question. It's a question. You know how the Lord Krishna is saying to the Arjuna, fix your mind. You train your mind to fix that. Don't go into the dualities.
Yes.
So how Arjuna is going to do that one? How it can be applied to us too? Thank you, Saira.
So you're asking how we can do it?
Yes.
I think Swami will be telling about that, brother.
Okay.
So I would, I think Swami later on will be talking about the Sita Prakti Tattva. So I will just leave it till then.
Okay, thank you.
But I think for now, if you hold on to his feet, that itself is good enough, is my understanding. But if I will open it up for others, that is the best way. You hold on to something which is permanent, which is unwavering, which is the Lord, and that way we can escape from the distraction of all the dualities. Because Swami is going to talk about the other karma phala and all that in the next few paragraphs. So I'm sure we will have enough opportunity to discuss that. That's what I have. Because even if you go to the next chapter, also Swami is talking about it. So I will leave those things for now. Okay, if you don't mind. But I think for now we can say we can fix our mind by fixing our mind on the Lord. I would say anyone else has something to say, please do so, because we have already reached 4:28.
Sairam, brother, this is Sairam.
Sairam.
To add to Uncle's question, Uncle Tassin's question, something to do with when we are making decisions, the clarity is missing. So that also will help maybe in the future chapters, like there's no clarity. So that's why we are scared to make certain decisions in our life, but then it's bothering us all the time. But one time in our life, we have to face that situation, so maybe, as you said, that Swami has explained those in the future chapters. This is just my question, like.
Okay, a good question, sister. I'm sure Swami will, before we read complete Geetha Vahini, most of these questions will be answered by Swami. But I don't want to prematurely start discussing, because as to the great extent possible, if we keep to the text in front of us, that will be the best. I don't want to get tempted into talking out of turn. That's my view.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Brother,
Yes.
I still didn't understand clearly what is at the end of Krishna is trying to say here is, do not give away to either one or the other among the duality of the world. Here we discuss about the Atma and Shastri Dharma. Then what is now not to give away here? How among all the duality of the world, what is not to be given away? I didn't understand that part here.
Okay, sister.
We'll discuss next time. Okay, thank you.
We can all contemplate on it. Maybe if everyone can, you can read the 8 shlokas from the 30th shloka. If you have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, that will also help. Then we will continue, because it's a very lengthy. I think it will, once we enter into that discussion, it will be a long one, because we have already reached 4:30. So if it's okay, okay. Thank you very much for everyone sharing your thoughts. We will continue from where we left off. Okay, Saira. Sorry about it. So we will meet again next week and we'll continue. And there are lots of questions. Clarity about, I think Sister Alamelu asked about general clarity of things and how do we deal with it. I'm sure Swami will give her the answer. And Sister Aruna, we will continue where we left off. The dualities, how do we overcome with the Siddha Prajna and things like that. I think everyone can do some homework and come back and we can discuss. Okay, thank you very much. We'll close with Samasta Loka now. Sai. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sairam, everyone.
Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sai Ram.